With Elon Musk's revelation that Twitter has accepted his bid to purchase the company for $54.20 per share, valuing the social media network at around $44 billion, Elon Musk has finally put a stop to weeks of rumors. While Musk's protracted pursuit of Twitter is now over, at least for him, the next chapter in the history of the platform and its hundreds of millions of users is just getting started. The agreement immediately sparked worries that Musk, a self-described free speech absolutist, could reverse years of progress toward limiting the unchecked spread of hate speech and false information. But at a time when even employees are unsure about the company's future, experts have been equally eager to warn of the possible privacy ramifications of the $44 billion buyout to take Twitter private. Musk is correct that there is a threat to free expression, but it is not, as he argues, due to content regulation. Corporate monopolies are the reason why a small number of businesses, managed by an even smaller number of affluent and powerful elites, have a stranglehold on the tools and platforms that the rest of the world depends on for communication and spreading their message. Many claim they will stop using Twitter if Musk's stated vision for the social media network is implemented. Where will they go, though? To another big tech realm where Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook or Sundar Pichai of Google, whose business controls YouTube, decides which of our posts are seen by our friends, family, and followers. In an ideal world, users would swarm to open-source, decentralized alternatives like Mastodon and Matrix. But the biggest names in Silicon Valley have made it impossible to switch platforms a challenge. They've made it nearly impossible for these other initiatives to draw enough users to serve as a viable substitute for individuals utilizing social media for activism, business, or personal reasons. To fix social media and safeguard freedom of expression for the future, we need lawmakers to act, not billionaires. Make no mistake. The promise of the free and open internet is directly at odds with monopoly power. Online spaces have suffered from widespread centralization and privatization over the past 20 years. The markets for everything from e-commerce to search engines have been effectively cornered by large tech companies like Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. Instead of going head-to-head with startups, these giants frequently acquire them. Alternatively, they could simply duplicate a rival service and give it a top priority on their current enormous platform, eliminating smaller rivals. Less privileged internet users understand that having tools to address targeted harassment and hateful content is actually essential for creating online communities where people feel safe enough to speak freely. While elites like Musk have frequently portrayed basic content moderation practices as inherently at odds with free speech, less privileged internet users don't share this viewpoint. The practice of content moderation is not universal. Besides that, trade-offs are always given. Platforms are essential so that we can test out various tools and give users more control over their online experiences. Companies lack any motivation to improve their services when customers have few or no alternatives to a given service. Instead, by making money off of consumers' personal data and disregarding their right to privacy, digital monopolies utilize their influence to solidify their position of domination. Social media, however, is not an exception to this. Previously open and competitive, the market for digital networking channels is now dominated by a select group of corporate monoliths. Dominant social media sites have been allowed to operate with almost complete impunity since there is no actual fear of competition. The outcome is a social media environment where racial justice activists, LGBTQ+ content creators, and other oppressed groups are frequently and unfairly targeted by censorship regulations on social media platforms. Some antitrust opponents portray the struggle to control big tech as an impersonal, inconsequential problem for actual people. However, strong antitrust laws would really significantly enhance our online experience, especially for the underprivileged groups that are most disadvantaged by tech monopolies. At a time when civil rights protections are being rolled back across the country, building viable platforms for marginalized people to organize in their communities is more important than ever. But these desperately needed alternative platforms are unlikely to succeed as long as big tech's position as the gatekeeper is unquestioned. Fortunately, we have the chance to begin creating a digital economy where consumers have a real choice. the Senate must vote on a resolution to advance OIMA and AICOA, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer needs to govern like a majority leader. Congress should then approve them. OIMA will, in essence, relax Apple and Google's monopolistic control over the app market, which unfairly disadvantaged small developers by compelling them to pay rent to have their apps available on the majority of phones. OIMA would compel Google and Apple to permit customers to select which software they want to install on their devices, and it would compel Apple to permit alternative app shops, allowing developers to avoid their infamous 30% commission on everything that occurs within their constrictive app store. The open sourcing of Twitter's algorithmic code to make it publicly available is one of Musk's many proposed proposals for the social media platform that has raised concerns in the business, according to his brief 78-word statement. Musk claims that this change, which Twitter has been considering for some time, will increase user confidence in the service. For years, the platform has been plagued by false news stories and security breaches, including one in which hackers took control of prominent Twitter accounts, including Musk's, to spread a cryptocurrency scam. However, security professionals worry that Musk's open-source plan for Twitter might make the website more vulnerable to hackers. The choice to make this code open source probably means that it will be used by other social platforms, advertisers, and other parties who want to improve their user targeting. Of course, there are significant security implications, as with any open source code that is widely used. Vulnerabilities in widely used open source software are exponentially more lucrative, as we've seen with Log4Shell and Spring4Shell. While opening up Twitter's source code might increase user transparency, it might also make the site a much bigger target for attackers. Musk's strategy to combat so-called spam bots, which have been used to disseminate malware and advance political ideas, might produce new techniques that improve the detection and identification of spam emails, spam posts, and other malicious incursion efforts, if it is carried out properly. It might be a blessing for security professionals everywhere. Musk's brief statement, though, left a lot to the imagination. What his objectives were for authenticating all humans were left unclear. Some others interpreted it as a plan to expand Twitter's current user verification system, or a real name policy that would force users to present legal documentation proving their legal names. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, a digital rights organization, expressed worries that Musk may not have taken into account the effects that a lack of anonymity can have on particular categories of individuals, and that real name restrictions have on the human rights worth of pseudonymous communication. To safeguard users who might have identities, viewpoints, or interests that differ from those of the ruling class, pseudonymity and anonymity are crucial. Native Americans, people with traditional Irish, Indonesian, and Scottish names, Catholic clergy, transgender people, drag queens, and sex workers, for instance, have been forced out of Facebook by laws requiring genuine names. If those in power learn their genuine identities, political dissidents may be in great danger. Concerns regarding the persistent absence of end-to-end encryption for Twitter direct communications were also raised by the EFF. It is not irrational to worry that a new platform owner might be able to read those messages. Similarly to Boynton thinks that the most worrying component of Musk's takeover would be his crackdown on pseudonyms. In many situations, anonymity is a requirement for privacy. Once authoritarian governments learn that Twitter has verified its users, they may ask users for the verification information, risking a lot of present subversive use in those nations. Elon Musk adheres strictly to his own regulations. Therefore, I wonder how many Tesla employees presently operate anonymous Twitter accounts. As a result, future Tesla whistleblowers wouldn't be safe to get themselves authenticated on Twitter. Alright guys, this concludes our video for today. If you enjoyed it, please do well to give a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well.